What book did Sajin Komamura write? What are the goofy details of the Shinigami Men's Association? And what is Aizen's favorite food? Well, all will be revealed soon. What's up, guys? I am Sentiment, and after the good reception from my Best Captains in Bleach video, I figured I'd put a few more out of a similar format to see if you guys would be interested. So, today we will be talking about the 6 best Shikai within Bleach. I'd had this video in mind for a while, and the support of the last vid has finally motivated me to continue and finish it. For those of you who have not seen the previous similar videos, this is not a strength or power scaling video. You can find tons of those on YouTube. Here, I'll just be talking about the best, coolest Shikai within the Bleach anime in my personal opinion. I won't be going too much into 1000-Year Bloodwar content like that, but minor spoilers ahead. So, big thanks to all my new subs who came from my Captain video. Now, one more thing before we get started. All of these Shikai are really cool in my opinion, but I don't have too much to say for the first couple. It's only for the top 3 that, things really start to ramp up in terms of how much I talk. So if I give a brief overview in the first couple, don't mind that. Alright, starting at number 6, we have Shinji Shikai Sakanade. I believe that's how it's pronounced. I think the ability to invert the battlefield is very strange. Typically, I'm not into indirect illusion type abilities, but I can think about how disorienting it would be to be under the effects of this ability, at least for most people. The design is simple, but kind of cool, with the ring going around his arm, and I think an illusion fits Shinji's mysterious, yet kind of dangerous vibe that he's got going throughout the earlier parts of the story, so it's pretty fitting, I'd say. Next up, we have Sōgyo no Kotowari at number 5, which is Ukitake Shikai. Has a really cool design, and the ability to reflect enemy attacks, while not original, has its own spin on it with the charms that alter the speed and power of the attack, making it less predictable. As far as I know, he has yet to use his Bankai in the manga, and definitely not in the anime, but the reflection ability makes me really curious as to what his Bankai could be. I don't know, man. Maybe he reflects emotional attacks rather than physical ones. Alright, next up we have the iconic Zangetsu at number 4, Ichigo's Shikai. I have to say, it's a respectable sword. I mean, it's a large, it's got a thick base, a multicolored shaft, and it shoots projectiles while Ichigo screams. I mean, no one could really ask for a better piece of equipment. Whew. Anyway, jokes aside, it has either the coolest or second coolest design on the list, and while the abilities aren't that numerous, it's still visually cool and no doubt an iconic and unique design. I wish we could have seen Ichigo utilize the blade in more interesting and creative ways, as his inner hollow did when they clashed, but aside from that, the Shikai and its usage is very cool throughout the series. Going into these top 3, a little bit more interesting, and I have a little bit more to say about them, but all of these, Shikai are my favorite. But at number 3, we have Katen Kyōkotsu, Shunsui Shikai. I said this in my Captain video, but I'm not typically into abstract and game-focused abilities, which is precisely what this Shikai is about. This Shikai balances the unorthodox concept with cool visuals and a metric ton of sauce, meaning that I'm able to open myself up to this newer concept because of how charismatic and smooth Shunsui is when he uses his Shikai. It's a very cool Shikai and pairs well with his Bankai in terms of concept. If I'm not wrong, the narrative behind his Shikai and Bankai is that he has little to no luck with women. Seeing as his Zanpakuto spirit is a woman, his abilities often end up hurting him and being focused around games, which, based on the fact that he published a romance novel that was not very well received, seems to align with his inability to talk to women, which, unfortunately, hit a little bit too close to home for me. Anyway, cool Shikai regardless. Alright, next up we have Mac Daddy Illusion himself, Aizen, with his Kyōka Suigetsu at number 2. I will eventually stop saying this, but I was never ever into illusions in anime. It always seemed really cheap and disconnected from reality. However, Aizen pulls it off in such an incredibly cool fashion. One of the coolest things about this Shikai is that it looks really unassuming, but is one of the most powerful in its class, similar to Aizen himself. Look at this roster of Shikai and just general Bleach abilities. Now, look at this. Kyōka Suigetsu is stronger than all of the other abilities, arguably combined, and despite that, it looks no different than a sealed Zanpakuto. It's an incredibly cool contrast, and I've always been a sucker for that trope. Unfortunately, it's not something you see in anime too often. Character designers go out of their way to make strong characters and abilities look cool, and that works most times, and it is cool. I just like seeing a switch up every once in a while, but I digress. The name Kyōka Suigetsu is also really cool and really fun to say, and the ease in which it can dominate an entire battlefield with no huge flames or giant energy balls is extremely appealing. It's a perfect fit for Aizen in my opinion. Also, Aizen's favorite food, for those of you who do not know, is tofu. So, whenever you see Aizen commit some heinous war crimes, form a mental image of him eating tofu right after. Alright, as we approach number 1, let's get into 3 quick honorable mentions. Number 1 for the honorable mentions list is Wabisuke, which is Izuru's Shikai. Honestly, this was one of the coolest Zanpakuto when I first saw it, and I was really captivated by the abilities and shape of it. For those of you who don't remember, whenever Izuru hits someone with his blade, it doubles their weight, like it doubles the weight of the person being hit, making it harder and harder to move after receiving each attack. I forgot this, but the reason that the Zanpakuto is shaped the way it is because when his enemies are too heavy to move, they fall onto their hands and knees. He puts the hook under their chin, which increases their weight again so that their necks fall into the hook, like a reverse guillotine, finishing the job. That's metal as f***. Next up in number 2, this is going to be a little bit cringy, but I have to do this. Reduce all creation to ash. Ryūjin Jakka. Listen, man, this thing just oozes power. It has the absolute coolest release command, and it's similar to Kyōka Suigetsu. It's really just fun to say. But I'm gonna go into the next one. At number 3, the final honorable mention, we have Nozarashi, which is the Zanpakuto of Kenpachi Zaraki. It's a giant blade. Need I say more? Alright, before we get into number 1, I'd like to quickly inform you all about the Goofy Men's Association. Make sure you stick around for this, by the way. The Men's Association is led by Tetsuzaimon, and they honestly just... I guess they do what he wants them to do. Anyway, as a mandatory requirement of joining, you must dress like Tetsuzaimon, which includes his glasses and unbuttoned uniform. Their HQ is located in a men's bathroom after they were kicked out of a normal room by the Women's Association, who wanted to use their room for storage. They were in the process of developing their own animal-themed quote-unquote macho cell phone before their spending was cut. Anyway, the funniest part about this is that Ukitake, who is indeed a member, has tried to get Byakuya to join, but has been rejected for some odd reason, I'm not sure. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that fun little segment. I found this while putting this video together. Also, fun fact, Sajin Komamura apparently wrote A Puppy's Feelings and A Kitten's Feelings, respectively, which I would imagine are 2 books or articles or something like that. Regardless, it's absolutely adorable, and I love how he used common endearing terms for these animals rather than just saying dog and cat. It's beautiful. By the way, my source for this is the Bleach wiki, and they cite a majority of this stuff. A lot of it is shown in either Bleach filler or cited by comedic and lax source guides written by Kubo, to my knowledge. But enough of that. At long last, ladies and gentlemen, we have number 1. Drum roll, please. Shuhei's Kazeshini. Now, this may come as a shock to a lot of people, but my favorite Shikai in Bleach probably has to be Shuhei's Kazeshini. Now, wait, I don't like the Shikai because it's particularly strong, just because of how well it suits the character's design, yet contrasts his personality. If you look at Shuhei, this weapon matches him perfectly. He's got short, spiky black hair, 3 scars running down his face, a sleeveless lieutenant uniform, a choker that seems to be made of change, and a strange tattoo below his eye. I couldn't find out what this was exactly, so if you know, be sure to comment, but I'm going with tattoo for now. Regardless, Shuhei looks like he's built for violence, and, the 69 scar on his cheek doesn't help. Anyway, he's got battle scars, the black aesthetic, and on top of it, his Shikai looks like a double-bladed Grim Reaper scythe, with absolutely dope chains at the end. I'm a sucker for chains on melee weapons, but if you've watched the anime, you'd know that Shuhei was terrified of violence and death for a large majority of his life, and even currently is a very non-violent, peaceful person. In fact, shortly after he uses his Shikai for the first time on screen, he drops one of the dopest lines in the entire series, saying something to the effect of, "I hate how my Shikai is shaped because it looks as if it was made for reaping lives." That line had his opponent visibly shook. This Shikai is great because it aligns with what you see, but opposes what you can't see, which is Shuhei's non-violent soul. I could go on for a bit, but hopefully you guys understand that this is an incredibly cool Shikai, despite it not being all that strong in the long run, to my knowledge. Shout out to Shuhei and his Shikai Kazeshini. Now, some of you may be curious as to why Senbon isn't on the list, as Byakuya as a character was ranked fairly highly in my last vid, and it's because I chose to give some other Zanpakuto and characters that I hadn't talked about some more attention, and that was fun. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the list because I enjoyed making it. This is one of the earliest ideas. Wow. This is one of the earliest video ideas that I'd come up with, and it was very fun to write and put together. Once again, this is just my opinion, and if your Shikai or your favorite Shikai isn't on the list, your Shikai isn't on the list or isn't as high, that's not an insult to the Shikai or anything, or an insult to your tastes. It's just that my opinion differs at the moment, and that's okay. You know, what makes anime franchises great is that there's differing opinions and discussions within a community that can change over time. Anyway, I am Sentiment. I've got a lot of editing ahead of me, but I guess that's my cue.